Hey guys, thanks for coming back to my channel. This time around, we're going to talk about Kringle and Country Candle. I'm going to kind of update how everything went with my last haul with Kringle and Country. As you know, I placed a haul a couple of weeks ago, and it was 9 fall candles from Kringle and Country Candle combined. I have 8 of those 9 candles here to update. I've completely finished all 8 of those candles, and I just kind of want to let people know my experience and how things went for me. I know there are a lot of people who really love Kringle and Country as well, and I think a lot of people were very curious what I thought about their candles. And I even placed a Kringle candle and Country candle haul last year on this channel. Those were the 3 wicks that I placed last year. Those were their holiday fragrances. I feel like Kringle really does the holiday winter style fragrances very well. And I enjoyed every bit of those candles. There were some of the wax melts that I didn't care for, and I intentionally, with their wax melts, chose to buy some things that were a little bit more out of my comfort zone back then. But as far as the 3 wick candles, new soy blend goes, I was very impressed with those candles last year. And in this video, I'm just going to kind of do things how I've done in Empty's videos prior to this, where I'm going to kind of rank things as far as my most impactful candles to my least impactful. And so I'm going to start off with the most impactful, and we're going to work our way down. And I'm just going to kind of talk about the burn and how things went. I spent a good 2.5 weeks with this candle company, almost solely with Kringle and Country, and really didn't do much of anything else with any other candle company. So I really kind of went head first. And I'm just going to kind of let you know up front, I prefer the 3 wicks that I burned last December. I think they were a cleaner burn. I think they were a better throw overall. Just a better experience overall with those 3 wicks. These 2 wicks really did kind of put a damper on things for me. For right now, I'm kind of early into fall burning, and to be honest, it really kind of set me back as far as wanting to burn candles right now. They just kind of put out my flame, if you will. And you never want that to happen, but that is what happened with these candles. After spending a good amount of time with them, just solely burning Kringle and Country, yeah, I kind of was a little bit wore out and a little bit disappointed, to be honest. But we're going to get right into the candles. I'm going to start it off on a good note. Well, the best note as far as the candles that I have here that I burned on this go around with Kringle. And we're going to start off with my most impactful fragrance. And it's this one right here. It's gorgeous. Yeah, a little play on words there. And this one for me was a very true kind of pumpkin chai fragrance. It was very heavy on the ginger, so a ginger forward pumpkin chai fragrance. They mentioned that this on the website is, I guess, a pumpkin spice latte, or supposed to be in that vein, that style of fragrance. But for me, I would actually consider this more of a gingery pumpkin chai. The ginger really came out in this one. It's a very creamy fragrance too, a very creamy pumpkin chai. So you can kind of almost imagine a little bit of froth on that pumpkin chai. And I know Starbucks is actually coming out with a new drink this fall that is a pumpkin chai. I don't know the exact name of it. That's one of the things that is at the very top of my list as far as fall drinks this year. So that's one that I'm really looking forward to. This was a fragrance that I would absolutely repurchase, and I would even repurchase it again in this 2 wick style. It did that well for me. When the overarching theme with Country and Kringle were that they were a more medium throw, and they did kind of soot. You can't really see a ton of soot here on the video on this glass, but trust me, there are others that you really can see it. We're going to go from that one to being my most impactful fragrance. Let's move on to the second one in line here, and this one's from Country, but this one will give you a really good idea how much the soot affect these candles. And I'll say it definitely affected Country more than Kringle. It really, really shocked me to see this. I was dealing with mushroom tops, big mushroom tops. The whole burn on all of these Country candles, it didn't really matter how low the candle went as far as the wax level, just seemingly produced a mushroom top every time I would light it up again. And that's some serious soot. I mean, I know that, you know, Goose Creek in the past with their 2 wicks soot quite a bit. Even Goose Creek's 3 wicks soot a lot. I can't really even compare anything though that I've burned here recently to the amount of soot that the Country candles gave me. And I'm just gonna attribute it to the large sized mushroom tops on a lot of these candles. But this was a fragrance that I really did enjoy. It was very straightforward. It didn't really have a lot of layers to it. It was kind of a warm cinnamon fragrance, had a little bit of a sweet icing to it. Threw pretty well too, right up there with Gorgeous as far as the throw goes. And it did kind of produce a throw quicker than a lot of these other candles did. And after those 2 right there, well, I've got one more that I'm going to talk about, but after those 2 right there, I don't think there's any other candles in this haul that I would repurchase. I would definitely repurchase both of these, but I think the warm Cinnabuns would be a repurchase in the 3 wicks if it's available. Gorgeous, I wouldn't mind either way, the 2 wicks or the 3 wicks. It did pretty well. It didn't soot terribly. So as far as that goes, those 2, and then this one right here, which I was really confused by, if you watched my initial haul video, was Autumn Spice, and it kind of sooted too. I mean, as far as these 2 wicks go, I'm just not used to seeing this with Kringle. Normally they're a very clean burn, and I don't just mean with the wax. Sooting is usually a non-issue with Kringle, but for whatever reason, these did soot quite a bit. Autumn Spice was a fragrance that I felt like there was an off note in my haul, kind of a burnt bakery note that really stood out, that didn't fit in with the rest of the style of the fragrance. Once this was burning though, that really just kind of melded with the spices. It was a very kind of just generic fall spice fragrance. I enjoyed it though. After it kind of got past that period, I'll call it the preheating period with some of these candles, where it took a good 2-3 hours for them to really start to throw. I enjoyed it a lot. It stayed in the bedroom most of the time, so it wasn't a real strong thrower at any point, but I liked it. And that burnt bakery smell, they call it a bakery accord in the official notes. It kind of just melded well with the rest of the fragrance. Not smelling it directly out of the jar, that wasn't real pleasant, but smelling it in the air and having it fill the bedroom, it was really, really nice. And the throw after that kind of 2-3 hour preheating period, that stage where you have to kind of go through with some of these Country and Kringle candles, was a solid 6, maybe even at times a 7. So no real issues there. The next candle that I'm going to talk about, really, really strange to me. And it was probably number 4 out of the candles here. And it might not even be a repurchase for me. Maybe, but probably not. I hear this one's getting discontinued. It's Pumpkin Cheesecake. And it was a fragrance that, again, just like Autumn Spice in my initial haul video, I was extremely confused by the way they chose to interpret a pumpkin cheesecake. And, you know, one thing I want to say, I'll occasionally hear reviewers mention the word pretty when it comes to bakery fragrances. And that's kind of a pet peeve of mine when you refer to something, especially gourmand or bakery or foodie, as pretty, because I've never really smelled food, intentionally at least, or been in a restaurant, you know, even a real fancy 5-star restaurant, something that you would expect to be higher end, just, you know, food in general. I've never smelled anything and thought, smells pretty. I want to eat pretty. I just have never felt that before. And I hear reviewers do that all the time when they're talking about foodie fragrances. Smells really pretty. And I'm like, what's food and pretty got to do with one another? I mean, how do those two things work out together? Well, whether they meant to or not, a pumpkin cheesecake actually kind of smelled pretty a little bit. And I really feel like it's the graham cracker note here that they tried to, a graham cracker accord, let's call it that. A graham cracker note that they tried to recreate using different notes to recreate one accord. And I feel like they tried to use several different things to get to that point, to recreate the graham cracker. And it really just kind of ended up making it smell pretty feminine, fruity even, almost like personal fragrance to a degree. If they made some sort of body care for this one right here, I could see it being a really good seller. It's unusual, and it's not one that really suffered with sooting at all. I was not a fragrance that I could keep anywhere other than the bedroom. Pumpkin cheesecake was not a great thrower. It would have suffered completely to the point of not really even being able to smell it if I kept it in my open kitchen and living room area. But in a bedroom, it did all right. It was a very medium throw. It never really any point smelled like a pumpkin cheesecake. It never really smelled like anything hugely foodie or pumpkin or fall. I don't think I would ever repurchase this for the purpose of wanting to burn it during the fall months. It was interesting enough though that maybe at some point, if it's still available, maybe I might repurchase for maybe the spring months. It was an unusual kind of feminine, fruity, body care style fragrance that I just feel like, you know, when you describe something as pretty and its name is pumpkin cheesecake, the candle company has either failed miserably, probably, or you just run out of descriptors for what you're smelling. And in this case, I feel like they missed what a pumpkin cheesecake actually is. But it was never a fragrance that I smelled and thought, oh, that smells terrible. You know, I mentioned I thought it smelled pretty at times and attractive even. Walking into a room and it having a nice smell in the room, just not smelling like what the name is or what a lot of the notes might suggest, or what you would expect from a cheesecake fall fragrance. Okay, everything else, and I've got 4 more candles here, everything else is not gonna be a repurchase, and none of them were very memorable. None of them really did anything for me as far as after having burned the candle and, you know, being like, okay, would I repurchase that? This one right here though, Apple Pumpkin Pie, it was just a very generic fall spice fragrance. It didn't really suffer from the soot that a lot of the candles did with Country, but it was one that was just kind of, I feel like I could get that type of smell from other candle companies. It was an okay thrower. It wasn't exceptional by any means. This one right here, Cherry Crumble, did really soot quite a bit too, but it was not a fragrance that really did anything for me. It threw really well too, probably a 6, maybe even pushing a 7 at times. Again, that one had the really big mushroom tops like all of the Country candles did, and that affected sooting quite a bit. This one right here, Pumpkin Banana Muffin, at one point I just decided to not burn that one anymore. It was probably the most disappointing candle in this haul as far as the name goes, Pumpkin Banana Muffin. I never really got anything bakery out of burning that. I never really got anything pumpkin out of burning that. And I never really got anything that I would consider, other than banana, other than like a sweet banana, that was just a very mild throw. I never really received anything as far as leaving a lasting memory on me or saying, yeah, I might want to repurchase that again. It doesn't really throw, it smells good. No, it didn't throw, and it didn't smell good. It didn't smell like the name, nothing. So that's another one that I would not repurchase. And the last one that surprised me so much for the worse, as you can see, it didn't really soot much at all. It burned very well, as a matter of fact. Apple cider donut, but it surprised me so much that it was so weak and so just non-existent that it left me wondering how this candle has such the reputation that it has. It was that weak of a throwing candle. And I don't really even mean that kind of 2-3 hour wait that you would have to go through for it to fully form the wax pull and to have the soy wax heat up and to produce a solid throw. I just mean through the entire life of the candle. I just felt like this was a candle I didn't really know I had burning most of the time that I was burning it. So as you can see, guys, there were 3 candles here that I would really consider my top fragrances from this haul after having burned them. Gorgeous, warm Cinnabons, those were easily my top 2. Autumn Spice did offer something that was a little unique, very distinctly fall, which is one thing that I'm really looking for from Kringle and Country, because a lot of their fragrances didn't necessarily scream fall to me. Some of them just felt like candles that I could burn all year around. But, you know, I'm in fall mode right now. I want to smell something that really makes me happy for smelling a fall fragrance. And a lot of these did not do that. Even with warm Cinnabons, even as much as it was kind of a sweet, icing, warm cinnamon fragrance, it didn't really specifically remind me of anything fall, even though maybe you could consider something very cinnamon forward being fall. But after this haul and after experiencing Kringle and Country Candle, guys, I had such a disappointing time, and maybe it was because I focused so much solely on Kringle and Country over like a 2.5 week period that I felt like, boy, I don't know if I really even want to purchase these candles again. And if I do, it's gonna be almost strictly with the 3 wicks that I experienced last year, where there was no preheating period with them. They threw almost immediately, they burned to perfection. Of course, they were holiday fragrances, which I feel like Kringle does really well anyway, and they've always done really well. So that's something that I feel like is right up their alley, something that they specialize in. Whereas fall, they really never have scratched that itch for me over the years. And that's just, you know, after a $200 candle haul, there is a little bit something left to be desired with some of these candles, because I felt like there was just, what, $200? And I mean, when you have to take that hit and you have to feel like that there was just the majority of the candles that you spent your money on, yeah, you probably feel like, well, I wish I would have spent my money somewhere else. And that's where I'm left with right now with this candle company, Kringle and Country. Guys, I mentioned this because, you know, I want to make a comparison. I'm in a homeworks group, and I know there are a lot of people that like to complain, rightfully so. If your candle's not doing well, you want to complain, you want your voice to be heard. I'm not with Kringle. I don't see a lot of people talking about Kringle. I'm not in any Facebook groups with Kringle fans. I'm not somebody that Mick is going to listen to. My opinion's not going to matter to him. I'm not somebody that buys these candles on the regular and somebody that spends my hard-earned money on them on the regular. I don't think they're going to care much about what I have to say. But like Homeworks fans, where there are issues and there are people speaking up about it, are people doing that with Kringle? See, I don't know. So this is a legitimate question for me. Did you experience some of the things I experienced with this candle company? And are you letting your voice be heard? Are people upset with Kringle? Are they upset with Country? Some of the comments in my initial haul video kind of suggested that people were. So that's the only reason I ask, after having spent 2.5 weeks with this candle company. And I know after burning probably my first Homeworks candle in over a year that didn't throw at all here recently, I was upset, and I felt like going on their Homeworks Facebook group and talking about it. But then I started burning some of their other candles, and I felt like, okay, maybe that's just the outlier. Maybe that was one dud that I received, because the other ones after that point did really well. But are people unhappy with Kringle? How do you feel if you're a Kringle fan, if you've been with them for a while and you've put your money towards this company? How do you feel after you burn the candles? Do you feel satisfied? I haven't felt that way with the majority of these candles. I hate to leave this video on such bad news, on such a sour note, But I don't know if my future with Kringle is going to really extend too much further past maybe their occasional 3-wick for the holidays, maybe a wax melt here and there. Yeah, guys, let me know what you think and what your experience has been. I held out on getting any of their Halloween candles. It was such bad timing because I burned a lot of this stuff right when their Halloween candles were dropping. So I ended up going based off of what I experienced with fall so far. And to be honest, that really affected me whether I wanted to buy any of their Halloween candles too, being that most of them were the 2 wicks and really had struggled with a lot of the 2 wicks from Kringle and Country. So guys, that's all I've got to talk about here for today with Kringle Candle. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What's your experience with Kringle this year and Country? Appreciate you guys watching. I'll talk to you soon. See ya.